All right, let's dive right in. For more than 20 years, the scientific community was absolutely haunted by what is, for all intents and purposes, a ghost story from the deep ocean. It's the wild case of a perfectly healthy, 9-foot-long great white shark that just vanished in an instant. And the only thing it left behind was a digital trail so bizarre, so impossible, it forced researchers to question literally everything they thought they knew.
I mean, this quote right here, it just perfectly sums up the shock that hit this team. What they found wasn't just some weird data. It was a clue, a breadcrumb leading to a terrifying reality hidden under the waves. A power so immense it could just erase one of the ocean's top predators like it was nothing. So let's set the scene. The year is 2003, and we're off the rugged coast of Western Australia. A team of marine biologists is out on the water doing a pretty standard mission, tagging great white sharks to study their behavior. You know, it was routine stuff, something they'd done 100 times before. But this time was about to be very, very different. The star of our show was this magnificent 9-foot female shark they nicknamed Shark Alpha, and she was a perfect specimen. Totally healthy, powerful, not a scratch on her. They fitted her with a satellite tag, which is designed to track her depth, her movements, and the temperature of the water around her. And for weeks, everything was completely normal. The data came back just like they expected, showing her patrolling the shelf, hunting seals, textbook great white behavior. Everything was going smoothly, until it wasn't. The team gets a call from a local ranger station. Someone found a satellite tag washed up on a nearby beach. So the team goes to get it, probably thinking, okay, it just fell off or the battery died. They were expecting a simple equipment failure, but what they were about to download from that tag was anything but simple. So they get back to the research boat, they plug the tag into the computer, and as the data starts to load on the screen, confusion turns to disbelief and then to a real sense of dread. This was no malfunction. This was a recording of something incredibly violent, something that, according to everything they knew, just shouldn't be possible. Okay, so first, the baseline. The tag showed that Shark Alpha had been swimming around in consistently cool water, about 46 degrees Fahrenheit. This was her home turf, her normal environment. Totally predictable. Nothing to see here.
And then, bam, this. In the blink of an eye, with no gradual change at all, the temperature reading skyrockets to 78 degrees. Now, you have to understand, you do not find 78-degree water in the open ocean off Australia. There is really only one place you'd find a temperature like that. Inside the stomach of another, very large, warm-bodied animal. And before they could even wrap their heads around that insane temperature spike, another clue hits them. The tag recorded a sudden, violent, vertical dive, straight down, almost 1,900 feet into the dark. This wasn't the slow, lazy drift of a dead animal sinking. No. This was the powerful, deliberate movement of an active hunter dragging its prey down into the abyss. So let's be crystal clear here. The implication was inescapable. Shark Alpha had been eaten. And for 8 straight days, her tag kept working, recording data from inside her killer, tracking its every move as it patrolled the deep. The routine science experiment was over. A full-blown murder investigation had just begun. So the team is just staring at this data, left with 2 impossible clues: a sudden internal body temperature of 78 degrees and a powerful dive to 1,900 feet. The question was pretty simple, but the answer was anything but. What on earth could do this to a 9-foot-long great white shark? They immediately started running down the list of suspects. Okay, could it have been a colossal squid? Nope, they're cold-blooded. Their insides would be the same temperature as the ocean around them. What about an orca, a killer whale? Well, orcas are known to hunt sharks, but their internal temperature is way too high, up in the 90s. Plus, they have to come up for air. They couldn't stay down for 8 days after swallowing a shark. Megalodon? Fun to think about, but there is zero evidence they still exist. All the usual suspects just didn't fit. So they tried to think outside the box. Maybe the tag just broke? No, they checked it. It was working perfectly. What if she just died of natural causes and something scavenged her? Well, a dead shark cools down. It doesn't heat up. And a dead body can't pull off a controlled, high-speed dive like that. Every single logical explanation they could come up with just slammed into a wall of hard data from the tag. The mystery just kept getting deeper. And for over a decade, that's where the story ended. The case of Shark Alpha went completely cold. It became this legend among scientists, a ghost story they'd tell with no ending.
But then, in 2014, new studies being done off that very same coast started to reveal a pattern that was terrifyingly familiar.
This was the breakthrough. Researchers realized that it wasn't just shark alpha. Multiple great whites were disappearing in the exact same way. They saw the same pattern over and over. A sudden, deep dive, the signal goes silent, and, this is the crucial part, that same exact temperature spike to 78 degrees Fahrenheit. Every single time. This was too consistent to be a coincidence. It wasn't a random attack. It was a signature. The signature of a very specific predator.
So after they eliminated everything else, the data pointed to a conclusion that just seemed unthinkable. The killer was another great white shark. And not just any great white, but a colossal super predator, one they estimated had to be over 16 feet long, and it was actively hunting its own kind.
Now, I know what you're thinking. A great white hunting other great whites? It sounds like something from a monster movie. But believe it or not, this theory is actually grounded in some pretty wild but established science. We've known for a while that great whites practice something called embryonic cannibalism. Basically, the unborn pups hunt and eat each other inside the womb. The new theory was that this super predator was just a rare case of a shark that never stopped that behavior and just scaled it up into adulthood. The cannibal theory was compelling. It fit all the data, but it was still just a theory. They needed proof, the smoking gun. So in 2024, armed with way better technology, advanced drones, high-def cameras, and 2 decades of knowledge, research teams went back to that same patch of ocean. They were determined to finally close this case for good. And this time, they got it. They deployed new, more advanced tags. And sure enough, the pattern repeated itself perfectly. The deep dive, that signature 78-degree temperature, the whole thing. But the final nail in the coffin, they got it on camera. Drones and underwater cameras actually captured footage of a truly enormous great white, an absolute giant, actively hunting another, smaller great white. So, after 20 long years, the case was finally closed. Think about that journey. It all started with a single, confusing piece of data from a tag that washed ashore. It evolved into a decade-long investigation that ultimately rewrote what we know about the behavior of one of the ocean's most famous animals. Shark alpha wasn't killed by some mythical sea monster, but by a bigger, badder member of her own species. So the mystery of shark alpha is solved, but it kind of leaves us with an even bigger, more unsettling question, doesn't it? This creature wasn't a myth. It was a known animal just behaving in a way no one had ever seen, hiding in plain sight for decades. And it just makes you wonder, if a predator that big could go completely unseen for so long, what else is down there, waiting in the deep, dark water?